Hello, tonight's programme is about Mstislav Rostropvich, one of the great cellists of the 20th century and a remarkable man. Born to a musical family in central Russia in the 1920s, the young Rostropvich soon proved himself the outstanding cellist of his generation. And by the 1960s, he and his wife, the opera singer Galina Vishnevskaya, were Russian superstars. But this happy period was brought to an abrupt end when Rostropvich came into conflict with the Soviet authorities. In 1974, he left his homeland forever. Since then, he's built an international career in the West as both conductor and soloist, with over 60 new cello works written especially for him. This August, as for many years past, Rostropvich went to Aldeburgh, home of England's best-loved music festival. There he played at the event established especially for him, the Rostropvich Festival. In Don Featherstone's South Bank show, we went to Aldeburgh to see him in performance and to talk to him about his eventful life. Rostropvich is drawn back to Suffolk because of his affection for the people who made Aldeburgh famous in the music world, the composer Benjamin Britten and the singer Peter Pears.
Well, Slava, of course, has always had this incredible personality, this enormous warmth, as well as unbelievable skill. I mean, he's in total command of his instrument, and that enormously impressed Ben, because Ben liked people to be able to play their instruments. He admired virtuosity at the service of music, and he had nothing against that at all. And Slava can play absolutely anything on the cello. He can probably play any instrument, really, because he's so gifted.
The long friendship between Rostropvich and Benjamin Britten began in 1960, when they met for the first time. Rostropvich immediately asked Britten to compose something for him. The result was the Sonata for Cello and Piano, which they rehearsed together for its premiere at the 1961 Aldeburgh Festival.
I make stop in London and make first rehearsal with Ben. That's my first music what we make together in his small apartment in London. And I so worried play with him because I so admired him. But I have feeling he also a little bit was nervous in this moment. And we sit and in a room and speaking, and I afraid take my cello, and he not pushed me. But we must play that. I coming only for one day in for stop here transit to South America. And he tell me, Slava, I have some good idea. I tell, what, which idea? A little bit whiskey. I thought, oh, marvelous idea, marvelous idea. And we drink a little bit whiskey. And after this, Ben tell me, maybe a little bit play. Oh, yes. That was morning. And, and we play after whiskey, that's a little bit easy. You know, play, and after first, we touched. And now whiskey more. And of course, I play first time, I shy play real what I feel, you know, with such genius. And after this, we coming to lunch. Ben invited me to the lunch, and we coming to lunch, and that's second theme for first movement. And we eat lunch, and Ben very delicate. He not tell me anything, what I wrong, what little bit, but we eat, and Ben sing. I understand for lunch. That I must play like he sing. First movement, dialogue. One not cello, why not piano? One not piano, one cello. That's like a speaking.
Ben was the best accompanist ever, and he adored playing for Slava because it was always so lively, always such an adventure. If one says that one didn't know what was coming next, that was meant as praise because it was always fresh. There was nothing stale about Slava's playing. It had grandeur and it had finesse too. And Ben gave him both that in the cello sonata. He gave him brilliance and rapidity.
I think that centrum of this cycles is third movement, elegy, because that's such feeling there in this music. That's a little bit spring feeling. It's like all nature is coming, blooming, and sad moment. And also a little bit I have feeling, a Russian feeling there also in this music, a little bit touched first time.
Rostropvich was only 7 when he began to learn the cello. He learned from his father, a professional music teacher and cellist. His childhood was a happy one, until personal tragedy intervened.
That's my first real shock in my life. That's when I was 14 years old, and my father is died. We was during the war, 1941. Our family coming, evacuated from Moscow to the Ural. You know, that's Ural, that's Orenburg, the city Orenburg. Ural, that's exactly border between Europe and Asia. And that's mountain. And we stayed there 2 years, and very, very difficult time in my life, most difficult time. And very, very cold winter, 30, 35 degree under zero, under frozen point. That's not Fahrenheit, that's Celsius, real, very cold. And in this moment we have no water, because water is freezing, frozen, yes, water, and we have not enough food. And father died, and my mother practically have no work. And I beginning work 14 years old. I beginning replace my father in music school. I was 14 years old, and my students between 22 and 25 years old was. And first time I understand I must have responsibility for my mother, for my sister, and this moment I beginning real work and real studies cello. A little bit late, but real serious. Until this, everything's coming to me very, very light, not too much work, but in 14 years old after my father died, completely changed my life, and my attitude was in my point of view to the life.
The young Rostropvich studied on his own for 2 years, then returned with his family to Moscow, where he attended the conservatory. There he was taught by some of the best musicians in the Soviet Union, including the composer Shostakovich. By 1948, he'd completed his cello course with distinction, but was still a student of composition. In that year, ideological controls on the arts were tightened, and Shostakovich, along with several other celebrated composers, was denounced for writing inaccessible bourgeois music.
I come into conservatorium, and I see that, that's some desk there, when a rector, dean, have his rules, new rules in conservatorium. And I see new rules. From this date, Shostakovich no more teach in Moscow Conservatorium because he not enough professional. That's all. And I not finished composer faculty, because if my teacher not there, I just stop my education for conservatorium as composer, and I not finished conservatorium. That was a horrible moment.
Shostakovich's dismissal shocked Rostropvich, but as he recalls it, not everyone in the Moscow music world felt as he did.
In this crowd, we have so many people who are real jealous. And sometimes people have very bad feeling. Oh, I think that he's genius. But that's not bad if he suffer, Something like that, because that's we all together. And that's in this moment, many people also make career for this. Because if you're coming in the stage for a meeting and openly criticize and tell, yes, I think before that Shostakovich was a great composer. That's my mistake. Now communists open my eyes, open my ears. Now I understand how I was stupid. Immediately, a little bit more salary for you coming. Immediately for you coming, some career possibility. And many people make career for this.
Despite the fall of his mentor, it was at this time that Rostropovich's own career really took off. He won competitions in Moscow, Prague and Budapest, and in 1951 was awarded the Stalin Prize. Within a few years, he also began to make his name in the West. A few critics had reservations about his romantic, emotional style, but the vast majority were spellbound by his interpretation, and many composers were drawn to write new cello works for him.
Come for a walk.
Rostropovich isn't content to be only a cellist. He now devotes much of his time to conducting. and since 1977, he's been musical director of Washington's National Symphony Orchestra. Here he rehearses the young musicians of the Britten Peers Training Orchestra for their festival concert.
I beginning my conducting career in 1960. That I tell you that my dream was since 4 years old. With me. Hey, little bit, 1 second vibrato before your bone touch your string. Vibrato, 1 second before. Vibrato! Together 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that time. That's real beautiful music. And music with very big and deep passion, especially entrance. Must be real have, if that's in England, you have 220 volts. I think for particularly this beginning must be have at least 440 volts inside of your heart, electricity. And I think always string sound for string groups, that's so warm and so excitement sound. That's I try make, of course that's for this make excitement and good sound must we have technical details, like a vibrato, like an attack for right hand bow attack, and especially we have difficulties when we change bow in the point. That's our strength for pressure to the strings coming a little bit out. And you know that we have 3 first notes with accent, and another 3 eighths without accent, like a glue in your bow when we change. And you know, Russian blood, very warm, that's already boiled, this blood. And very high blood pressure. Bow, vibrato. Crescendo! Tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The second item in the concert program is the Carnival of the Animals by Saint-Saëns.
13 bars. This Carnival of Animals, that's much imagination. If that's play only, that's pure music, I think that's lost everything for this. And that's why I take this in a repertoire of youth orchestra, because I would like a little bit provoked some imagination. Because music, that's like life. That if you hear some music, you sometimes must have some feeling for vision, or also not only for your ears, also for your eyes. And that's why I work with this piece. I would like if people not just like a professional musicians play only his parts, but understand and have joy. Very good. Elephant. Accent and crescendo plus crescendo. Now, yes. yes. You know, I think that you're too elegant for me. Too elegant. You know, you must have feeling for this incredible big body, and you must have feeling this incredible big body, that elephant maybe just dancing in the table in between glasses. For not broken any glass. You know, that's two things in same time. One thing is very big, and another thing, you must be a little bit careful. Yes. Please, just your solo. Please, 1, 2, 3, 4 bar before 1. 4 before 1. La da tim pam ti da tim. La da tam tam. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yes. Crescendo. Ti. Love song with trunk. Wow, wow, wow. Yes, play. Love song. Oh, wow. Vibrato. Very good. If that's not proper intonation, even better. But not always. Yes, stop. But so, that's G sharp, short possible. Up. Because somebody disturbed love feeling from elephant, yes? 2 bars before 4. 2 bars before 4. La pa pam tin la da 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 tam ta yam pam. Forte. Forte. Yes. Very good. Bravo. When I conducting, I have not contact direct with instrument. I have contact only with human being. And human being must be understand what I like, what I would like produce. And he produce, not I produce sound. That's why very important for a conductor, he must have good relation, human relation with his musicians. Because if some flutist don't like conductor, and you explain for him how you like here, and he think in this moment, go to hell with your mind, I play what I like. And that sometimes, and that's coming difficult, that's why for me as conductor, all my life, I would like first established and build my human relationship with my friends. Piano. Stop. Yes, excuse me. That's some small advice for you. That's first of all that I think that your vibrato is not real enough intensive. But you play a little bit already swan very sick in your vibrato. Yes, but must be still alive. That's swan must be very beautiful. That's why people must be cry beautiful swan and die. You know, but not real sick. That's your swan already have something like a cancer, you know. And now, that's you must also, excuse me, I should. And that's what I don't like, that you make always diminuendo for in first phrase. You make diminuendo for here. Why? That's still no diminuendo for, that's very interesting. If I play forte vibrato more, vibrato now much faster. Now. F sharp. And if you see that these young people, I not make feeling for these young people that I am teacher and that student. I make feeling we just both. And my rules in my life, that's not orchestra play for me, not I conducting for the orchestra. We both make service for our God. Our God, that's music. Very good. For the diminuendo. One more. But that's beautiful. Bravo. Bravo. Yes, finale, friends.
South Bank Show, Rostropvich, production 30510, recorded on the 7th of 11th, 1984, part 2, take 1.
Saturday evening at the Rostropvich Festival in Albury. Rostropvich accompanies his wife, the opera singer Galina Vishnevskaya, in a recital of Russian songs. Rostropvich and Vishnevskaya first visited Albury in 1961 at the invitation of Britten and Peers. It was to be the beginning of a close personal and musical relationship.
Вот, я приехала было летом и сразу попала на партию. Я остановилась в отеле здесь, в Ольдборо, и в Ред Хаус. Я впервые увидела там Бена. Я всегда, когда я говорю о нем, я ловлю себя на том, что я улыбаюсь. Вот это восприятие его от начала и до конца, какое-то невероятного человеческого обаяния. Он излучал это обаяние человеческое, элегантность и простоту. Именно невероятную простоту. Я вообще не очень как-то быстро схожусь с людьми, мне трудно бывает. Но с Бенджамином Бриттоном у меня это, с моей стороны, это было с первой минуты вот это человеческое общение. И вот именно это самое главное осталось на всю жизнь в моем отношении к нему.
The Rostropoviches returned the hospitality of Britten and Peers and invited them to visit the USSR. In 1965, on holiday in Soviet Armenia, Britten set a series of poems by Pushkin to music for Vishnevskaya to sing.
Бен в это время сочинял «Эхо поэта». Сочинял, как он сказал, «Эхо поэта» на русском языке. У него был том стихов Пушкина с подстрочником. И Питер Пирс очень тщательно ему каждое слово со словарем объяснял. Это было совершенно феноменально. Когда первый раз он нам сыграл, это было совершенно впечатление, что он знает русский язык. Что настолько он проникся стихами Пушкина. Это было совершенно что-то невероятное. Каждая интонация стиха.
The last one is the famous poem about sleepless night, insomnia at night, where you hear the tick-tock of the clock going on. And later on, when we'd finished with our festival in Armenia, we were driven by Slava to our peril, across from Moscow to Leningrad, and then down to Pskov, and thence to Pushkin's estate, Mikhailovsk.
It was very late, and my friend, who is owner of this place, he's director, manager director there, we come into his house, and he have some upright piano, very old, and we tired, and my friend tell, I'm so like hear this composition what Mr. Benjamin Britten composed for Pushkin. And Ben tell, yes, I play for you if you like. And he sits in upright piano, and Peter and Galina, and play whole cycles, and coming to last song. And last song that's in piano part, he make piano part, imagine that's watch, tick, tack, tick, tack.
The clock outside the door in the courtyard joined in the most marvelous way. It was like Pushkin's clock going tick-tock, tick-tock, while Ben played his song. It was a very touching, uncanny moment.
You have goose pimples all, and that's a fantastic imagine. That's a echo from the poet.
The 1960s were the high point of Rostropvich and Vishnevskaya's careers in the USSR. He was acclaimed as the country's greatest cellist, and she was the star soprano of the Bolshoi Opera. Under Khrushchev, life for top Soviet artists was relatively free, and Britain and peers were able not only to visit them, but also to see the life of Soviet musicians at first hand.
We all have a real hope in this moment. Hope that's for freedom, for more contact. And first feeling was very promising, but that's not long. Sorry, that's what we say, that's spring, that's Khrushchev springs. But that's not long.
I think musical life in the Soviet Union, when we went there in '65 and 2 or 3 times we went there, one was very much aware, of course, of the pressures on musicians and the great demands they were made. I mean, they were treated almost like Olympic athletes. They were expected to win every time and to be better than anybody else. And they were treated in that way. If they were better than anybody else, they had the best time you could imagine. But the pressure was simply terrific. And they were pressurized right from the very word go, from childhood. If there was any talent there, it was pressed out of them. And indeed, that's one way of doing it, I mean. But it's not always done with love, it's done with something approaching force.
That force became more overt after Brezhnev and Kosygin replaced Khrushchev as Soviet leaders. One of the casualties was the writer Solzhenitsyn, who was officially denounced and refused permission to live in Moscow. Rostropovich stepped in, allowed him to stay in his country house, and wrote to the Soviet newspapers to defend the author and his work.
When Solzhenitsyn lived in our house, that we have great danger, my wife and I, because we have feel that's possible if one morning we come to this small house and see that he is dead, because that's, we worried that KGB possible kill him, or in some accident, or even in his house, in our house. And we must make clear for our position, because if something happens with him in our house, that's always our children, our daughters, and our grandchildren, not clean and not clear, you know. That's why I tell to Galina, we must express our position for people understand this moment with whom we is. And in this letter, I tell very friendly letter. I'm very proud about this letter. I tell this letter that's this letter I wrote exactly after Solzhenitsyn threw out from Union of Writers. And I tell why we so punished talented people. Maybe better if we more carefully think about it.
Rostropovich's letter did not appear in the Soviet press, but received wide publicity in the West. The effect on his career was catastrophic.
Government make for me my life impossible for continuity for this life in my country, and same for Galina. And that's why we wrote letter to Brezhnev and asked his permissions for coming for 2 years to the world, because practically I have no possibility in my stature. Why I tell in my stature? Of course, I play concert in small provinces, but in small provinces, so bad orchestras. That's incredible low level. And I beginning play verse. I just beginning coming down with quality as musicians. And that's my wife tell me that's stop, that's impossible.
The Soviet authorities granted them exit visas immediately. In May 1974, Rostropovich arrived in Britain, where he was soon joined by his wife. At that time, he did not know that they were to be stripped of their Soviet nationality 4 years later.
I would like to underline the fact that both myself and all my family remain Soviet citizens.
Я хочу сказать, что я очень глубоко и искренне люблю свою родину и свой народ.
And I'd also like to say that I love very deeply and very sincerely my country and my people.
Thank you very much.
Did you ever have any regrets about the course you took?
Oh no, no regrets. No, if I once more repeat my life in this earth, just particularly this moment, I repeat exactly what I already made.
Если бы мне нужно было повторить свою жизнь сначала, я бы сделала все то же самое, что я сделала. Все было бы то же самое. Иначе я бы не была самой собой.
Since then, Rostropovich and Vishnevskaya have lived a nomadic life in the West. Their home in Albra is just one of several in Europe and America. Vishnevskaya continues to sing. Rostropovich has built a new double career as conductor and cellist. He believes his major contribution has been to expand the limited cello repertoire by encouraging composers to write new works for him to play.
I think that's our problem, that repertoire. And I think why that's so deep sleep our colleagues in time Mozart and time Beethoven, and I think at least I must not sleep now. And I must take care for my, for next generation of cellists. And I ask Prokofiev, and now already too late, if I not ask him compose, if I not push him, if I not just near to kill him for compose for us, that we have no symphony concertante, we have no cello sonatas, we have no 2 cello concertos of Shostakovich, we have maybe no Dutilleux, French composer, fantastic concerto for cello, that's genius for composition. We don't have Lutoslavsky and Penderecki, 2 phenomenal concerti for cello. And that's, of course, future for cellist.
No, it was okay.
The phenomenal concerto for cello was written for Rostropvich by the Polish composer Penderecki. Here, Penderecki himself rehearses the Philharmonia Orchestra for their festival concert.
And then it's subito piano.
Subito piano,
Then it's
23 subito piano.
Yes. Because
Yes,
it was...
subito. Bar before 23, forte.
So,
22.
could we do it a little faster or
No, that's
stay?
good, that's good. Yeah. No more.
So please, 22. One more. Maybe 23. I think I wrote it before of Slava. I fall in love with his kind of playing, which I admired him for many, many years. And I met a maestro in New York. It was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I told him I'm going to write a piece for him. So I started the piece, and of course, because of his kind of playing, the piece became different. I mean, even differently from my early music, because I want to, I always had in mind for whom I'm going to write this piece. So this piece has everything. It's a very, it's a very virtuoso piece. It's very hard to play, really extremely hard piece to play. But has also this lyricism, very warm kind of melodies, and so I think this piece has a both, this lyrics and extremely complicated technique.
Before I touch this, I only hope and make prayer to the God, because even if you wait some composition from very, very great composer, that you don't know what happens. And when I touched first, I have tears in my eyes for this pleasure and this luck. That's this 36 minutes like a life for me. First, when coming string section, with very small, like a dream, glissandi, and that's like a, if you put small stone in the water, and that's like a magic stone coming these waves. And since this moment beginning for me like a life, I born in this moment. A real incredible wild climax when, for example, when I take this low C, all brass section when I come into this foundation, you know, see all bad section make enormous crescendo in one harmony, and in the end, that's I feel that's like a lion who his mouth open. Wow! I'm afraid I have goose pimple.
Trick.
Penderecki's Polish nationality is very important to him and provided much of the inspiration for this concerto.
This piece was written in 82. As you know, this was a very important year in Poland, you know, very sad and a lot of and I started this piece. I remember I was in Vienna, where the martial law was imposed in Poland. I couldn't go back. And I started this piece in the middle section, very dramatic section, the most dramatic section of the piece. I started in Vienna. Slava called me from the United States and asked me what I'm going to do. I didn't really know what to do at that moment. I didn't know what was going on in Poland. It was a kind of, you know, all information. I was, you know, under stress, really. And it's the most important part of the piece, written in that moment.
This evening's performance is the Cello Concerto's British premiere. Would you like someday to go back and play your music to Russians, to Russian people?
Yes, of course, that's my dream. I dreaming that's in one most fantastic day when Soviet Russia coming free and coming possibility for all of us, people who are now in the West, all writers, great writers like Solzhenitsyn, Maximov, Aksionov, Vainovich, all these writers, all ballet people like Baryshnikov, Nureyev, Makarova, and all musicians who is now here coming back, at least for concertizing. That's a great day, and I expect that that's in my life maybe coming this day.